Hi, I'm Pat Dowell, Alderman of the 3rd Ward, welcoming you to the Dowell Report. By the time this show airs, the Board of Education will have made its decisions related to school closings and school actions in our respective communities. And today we have 2 guests with us to discuss the school actions in both Englewood and Bronzeville, parts of the 3rd Ward. I want to introduce our audience to Aisha Butler, who is the chair of the Englewood Community Action Council and also the president of RAGE. And what does RAGE stand for?
The Resident Association of Greater Englewood.
Of Greater Englewood. And Pastor Chris Harris, who is pastor of Bright Star Church of God in Christ and also the chairperson of the Bronzeville Community Action Council. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing us to be here.
Very good. You know, CPS has made decisions within a vacuum in the past. And I believe that the creation of the CACs, or the Community Action Councils, has been a response to CPS' inability to listen to our communities. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your CAC got started, or your Community Action Council, how it started, and who's involved?
So this was an initiative that was back in October of 2010 that was something that CPS and the previous administration of under Bob Runcie had created. And as you said, it was to really have some transparency and to bring stakeholders to the table to take a look at some of the schools within the respective neighborhoods. They piloted 5 separate neighborhoods, and Englewood, Greater Englewood, was one of the neighborhoods. So I serve as a co-chair. We have another co-chair, which is Letitia Dickerson. And we, at that council, I guess we have a huge group of stakeholders and parents and educators and social agencies and students who serve on the council who help create a strategic educational plan for Englewood.
Okay. And Pastor Harris, is that the same model?
Same exact model, and that's the exciting thing that under the innovative leadership of Bob Runcie.
We miss Bob.
Yeah, we absolutely miss Bob for sure. You know, but we have an opportunity to still have him with us by continuing this work on. And the whole goal was, how do we have an opportunity to listen to the community? And so his idea was to replicate this in various communities. And so far, I believe the number is up to 7 or 8 various communities that it's in. So it's the same exact model with the same common goal. How do we take an opportunity to hear the voice of the folks that are in the community and don't allow the people from downtown to make decisions that will affect those folks in the community and actually prompt a negative result as a response to it.
And what kind of actions has the Bronzeville CAC taken?
Well, the Bronzeville Community Action Council, what we did was we took in our first goal a year, when I was voted to be the chairman, I said, let's take 3 steps. Let's take 4 months and focus on awareness, because there are many people who were brought to the table that was not as knowledgeable as some of the other folks who were in education. Let's take the next 4 months and let's focus on actions. What do we do after we get all of this information? And then take the last 4 months to deal with accomplishment. What did we actually accomplish this year? So that way we can look at what we've done and then set the goals for the next year. Well, in the midst of all of that, we've gone through a transition of leadership from a city level as well as leaders of CPS. And so, of course, when you had the last administration, Ron Huberman was gone, and then the city was run by a temp agency as well as CPS with Terry Mazzani at the lead. Yeah. And then now you have Mr. Brizard. And so we've been trying to hold on to continuing the work of the CAC because, of course, when the new administration comes, they may not necessarily want to continue on that vision. So we've been taking a stand to say we are here and we're here to stay.
And do you feel that the Englewood Community Action Council's vision is being listened to by CPS?
I would say that yes, in so many ways it is, but I think our action to carry out the goals that we have is what's really being acknowledged by CPS. We didn't do a more strategic plan like in terms of phases. We kind of organically looked at some of the things that were happening around school actions, and we focused on on several goals that could kind of cater to those parents going through this process. So we created, back in January, we did an Inglewood Education Empowerment Summit, and it's where Black Star Community PTA, which I also serve as the president of, the Inglewood Community Action Council, offered various workshops. And so all through February and March, our focus has been parental engagement, educate, engage, and then empower.
Okay. And did you have any school actions that CPS is looking at for this year?
Yes, so we had 2 schools in our neighborhood that was affected by school actions, which were Stagg Elementary School as well as Guggenheim Elementary School. Guggenheim was proposed to be closed and Stagg to be turned around by AUSL.
Okay. Well, I was glad to see that there were no schools in Inglewood and the 3rd Ward part of Inglewood that were affected,
Yeah.
John Hope being the main school.
Right.
So I don't have
Yeah.
any questions about that.
Yeah.
But in the Bronzeville CAC, we've had quite a number of schools, some that impact the 3rd Ward, but most of the actions taking place in the 4th Ward.
That's correct. You have diet, and then they're talking about closing down Price. Of course, diet, the idea around diet is a phase out within 3 years. Price, they want to close that school. Carter G. Woodson, they want to make it a turnaround. And then you also have Fuller School, and then dealing with Doolittle, with Shy Arts, who share space. And unfortunately, some of these decisions that they have made as it relates to Fuller School, they want to make that more so the AUSL model. And then at Woodson, turning around, and you have a new principal that's there. And I'd like to point out the fact that all of these principals in all of these schools, they have been in leadership under 2 years. So even if they had an opportunity to come in and turn the school around with their vision, they have not been given ample time to be able to do that. And that's where the CAC comes in to say, hey, wait a minute, let's slow down. We don't necessarily want you to stop the idea of putting the schools in a progressive posture, but we do want you to pause for a moment and think about some of these decisions that you're making, because at the end of the day, if you don't give Phil Jackson an opportunity to implement some of the goals and get a good team, then they'll never ever win the championship. And we think the principals as well as the other educators need an opportunity to prove that this new vision that they're under and leadership that they're under can possibly succeed.
Now, have you shared this vision with Mr. Brizard?
Absolutely. We've shared it with Mr. Brizard. We've shared it with various board members, as well as the school chiefs. And the ideal thing with the Bronzeville Community Action Council, we've been blessed to have the new chiefs of schools at the table. We had the CAOs at the table. We've had the principals to come in and present to us. So we created a strategic plan, not independent of the educators, but they were at the table with us.
And did you do the same
We
thing?
did the same thing, and we had our area officer who was at the table who actually was implementing some of the things that we were looking to do.
And so that's what makes it a challenge, the fact that here the folks that you have in leadership are sitting at the table with us, and you're not only not listening to them, but you're not listening to the community as well. And so that's what the challenge is. We want them to not just say that they're listening to us, but actually let us know that you really hear us. Yeah, demonstrate that.
Demonstrate it,
Yep.
right. I know that elected officials have been very supportive of the CACs, and I wondered if you could address that. Do you have representation from your aldermen, your state reps, your state senators?
Yeah, so we've been meeting for a year now. So we've had individuals kind of come in and out in terms of seeing what the work we were doing. We've had Senator Hunter there, who's actually talked about some parental leadership things that she was working on. So yeah, we've had a great kind of mixture and dialogue with the aldermen, and especially because of the school actions, they really are starting to kind of take a look and say, hey, we have a plan that we can really implement, and I think they're pushing that just as well.
And it's unfortunate that the aldermen don't have as much control over
Yeah. Sure.
CPS as we should have,
Right.
or that we would like to have. So unfortunately, our role is more of an influence to stand up with the community, to
Right.
make the same arguments, to appeal to the mayor. Hopefully we have an impact. hopefully the CAC will have an impact. And what about political involvement?
In the Bronzeville area, we are certainly blessed. We represent the second, third, and fourth ward. Now, I do have to say this: we're on the Dowell show, and Alderman Dowell has been the most active person, the absolute most active person. I can't even count on one hand how many meetings, Alderman Dowell, you've missed, and I want to personally say thank you for being so involved. Alderman Will Burns, who just came into the fourth ward, he's involved, and then Leslie Reck, who is the representation for education in Alderman Fioretti's ward, she's there all of the time. We also have, of course, State Representative Kimberly Duplessis, who sent her representative to be there with us at the meeting with Mr. Brizard, and Kwame Raoul's representative was there. And so it's really exciting to see our political officials really getting involved. And I think that's what it's about. We have a theme in the Bronzeville Community Action Council where we say nothing about us without us, because they do need to hear from us. And the interesting thing is the people sitting at the table, they actually have something valid to say. They know education. They know how to do education. And so we're grateful to have parental participation, but without the political participation, that would just look like we're some community folks just talking aloud but really saying nothing. So thanks for your consistent support.
I think that it's really important that we improve education, because if we're going to knit together the fabric of our communities and keep people in the communities and make our children successful, we really have to have good schools. I think the story that I heard you tell Pastor Harris about your son coming home with the same textbook that you had with your name in it.
That's right.
Is really unacceptable. And so one of the things that I've been pushing for is more resources for the schools in our community. Is this something that you're pushing for through the CAC as well?
Yeah, that's definitely part of our plan and our goals. And as we were supporting some of the parents at STAG, that was an issue. They were saying that a lot of the kids were sharing books and wasn't able to take books home. And so as we looked at our plan and we want to provide a high quality education for all students in Inglewood, resources is definitely another thing that we want to tap into.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we brought up to Mr. Brizard is you hear the city officials, you hear the leadership of CPS saying we're putting money into the schools. But I think the community, we need to start asking more specific questions. Are you putting money into the buildings, or are you putting money into our babies? And that's the difference, because at the end of the day, if their focus is more so on the facility, as opposed to making sure that our children have access to a world-class education, that's a problem. Yes, the building can be fantastic, but if they don't have the lockers, if they don't have the books, if they don't have technology and access to those things that will make them successful, at the end of the day, the building would be beautiful, but their educational achievement will be ugly. And our children deserve a whole lot more than that. So we have expressed it over and over again, and we're determined. We won't stop talking until we see them start walking in with the real resources that can help the kids.
Now, what will you do if the decision made by the Board of Education is not to support the, in your case, the plan that the CAC has come up with, and in Inglewood's case, the goal statements that you've been working on?
We have a plan as well. We just now are into the implementation of the goals. We have about 12 separate goals, and some of those goals is the ownership of the community, the collaboration of resources, offering parent empowerment, and those are resources that we can leverage. But it is some things that the district is going to have to assist us on. So it's a group of committed folks who I don't think that we will hush up anytime soon if some of that help, if we get pushback in terms of what the district can support.
I think one of the main things that we can do as a CAC in Bronzeville is publicize this injustice. Because if our people don't know, you know, my favorite book, the Bible, it says the people perish for the lack of knowledge. And a lot of people just don't know what's going on. So we need to publicize it. But then the second thing is, as a CAC, I think at this point we need to start taking matters into our own hands. If CPS won't do what's necessary, we can start to build philanthropic relationships to say, hey, listen, we need to partner with some other folks that actually care about our kids, pour resources into it, because if they won't do it, we need to make sure that we take the time to do it ourselves.
So how can people get involved with the CAC? How do they reach
So
you?
we meet every first Thursday of the month at Robeson High School on 68th and Normal. They can always call our resident association phone number, 866-845-1032.
And Pastor Harris?
And they can go to our website, www.bronzevillecac.com, or they can give us a call at 773-373-5220, and we'll get right back with them.
Well, I want to thank you two for being with me today. I want to
you.
thank you for your leadership in the community. I know this is more than a full-time job, as you all were saying earlier.
Yeah.
But the people in the community definitely support your commitment, and we wish you well. Thank you.